And then when I became the director, I remember one day having a conversation with my sister, and she says, you know, one of the biggest treasures you have in the library are all the lectures and speakers who were at the library through all its history, certainly in the last 30, 40 years. Every single lecture was recorded because one of the members of the library, Mr. Osterger, was and Mr. Rosenfeld, that there was a group of them. They were very interested in taping. Mr. Osterger was the one. He used to tape every single lecture, both in the library and at the Arbeiterring at the Workmen's Circle, and actually elsewhere as well. And we had something like 1,500 tapes, and it's an amazing record. And my sister said, you know, these are real treasures. So we started, I said, yes, you know, that's something we should do. And then it was, we had these tapes. They were all reel-to-reel tapes. And then I was alerted by the Canadian Jewish Congress archivist, who had also some speeches and stuff on reel-to-reel that were beginning to disintegrate. And so she hired this man to put them on, I think on CD at that time. And so I realized there's this whole digital technology now that we can sort of go, and I spoke to the man, then I called the man in, and he says, look, you have to be very careful with the really old to old, because sometimes you only get one crack at doing the tape. If you don't do it right the first time, that's it, you don't get it again. And so I said, how much does it cost? So it was very high, really, really high. So I took 6 at the time. One of them was a panel discussion with Ruth Weiss, my sister, with Leonard Cohen, with Melech Ravitch, and with Adele Wiseman, who was a very well-known Canadian Jewish writer. And I thought, okay, and we digitized that one. I think there was another one, maybe I think something with Saul Bellow. There were 4 things that we digitized. It cost me $1,500 to do 4, and I had 1,500 tapes. Where was I going to find this kind of money? We barely had enough to sort of do the library work we were supposed to. So in the back of my head, this is something, and every time I'd go out to try to raise money and to try to get money, you know, I'd always offer this as an opportunity. But I guess maybe it wasn't sexy enough, or maybe I didn't do a good enough job selling it, or maybe other things had priority. I don't know. We had to automate this whole library to begin with. One of the projects I started was something called Biblio Voyage. When I became the director, through Tzipora and the president of the library, just before I became the director, with 3 other independent libraries here in Montreal, we got a huge grant of a few $1,000,000. The library got $500,000 to upgrade our technology and for outreach programs. And over a period of 5 years, 4 libraries working together, and that was really, if I ever was able to do outreach and really build up the library, it was that gift, it was that grant that enabled me to do it. And we did trips. It was like a little travel program. It was run by volunteers, but I had to have a staff person actually half-time devoted to this. And we went 4 times a year. We went on these little trips that combined art, literature, books, and from the library. Twice a year, it would be something in the Montreal area, so it would be just a day thing or an afternoon visit. And twice it would be to go on a trip. So for the trips, I mean, once was to Ottawa, but twice we went to the National Yiddish Book Center. And the National Yiddish Book Center was one of the first things we did. And we had about 40 people. And we organized this absolutely amazing trip. It was an overnight in Amherst. And I contacted Aaron, and you know, he has very close ties to Montreal, to the library, to my sister, so it got transferred to me. And he met us, and he spoke to us, and we had the tour of the place. And I'm talking to him. I mentioned of the Yiddish talking books, and he He had his own priorities. He was building up the National Yiddish Book Center. Second time, I came again about 2 years later, 3 years later, and he said, Eva, when you come, I want to have a meeting with you, and I want you to meet, there was a few people in the office. And that's when we really started. He says, tell me again about the Yiddish topic. Technologically, it needed to be cleaned up and sort of spruced up a little bit. And so we had this discussion. He said, you know what, I'm looking for a donor, and I'm going to do some of them. So Sammy Rohr, I think, gave the initial money for it, because that was also, it was a different technology, and we did it as the CDs. We did 15 of them, and we negotiated, you know, how it would be. I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled because I knew we'd never be able to do it. I'd certainly not be able to do it the way, you know, Aaron was able to do it.